Hey, everybody. We are going to have an incredibly laid back session today. If maybe you're just joining us off the internet, you are on Twitch or you are on YouTube and you said, "Oh, what's that?" and decided to join us, amazing. So happy to have you. We're actually running a completely, oh, thank you. We're running a completely free programming boot camp. We're a little bit more than halfway done, which I'm pretty excited about. But, and I really want to keep stressing this, I really want to keep being a meanie if you're not, as you follow along, if you're not about halfway done, that is not a big deal. So the whole point of this is there's no attendance, we're not checking your homework, there's no deadlines. Nothing bad is going to happen if you take a little bit longer or a lot longer than 6 weeks to get this done. The whole world is big and scary and weird, but this is just learning. This is just programming. It can't hurt you. So, today, we're going to have an exceptionally relaxing day because we're just going to be doing some art. And yeah, we're going to be using HTML and we're going to be using CSS. We're going to talk a little bit more about SVGs. And we talked about those before. And do you know what? I'm going to model the behavior I like to see. I don't remember what SVG stands for. I mean, I think I've got a little bit of an idea. So I'm just going to search for that. And maybe I want the Wikipedia article. I'm just going to head over to DuckDuckGo. What? DuckDuck, I know how this works. Oh, scalable vector graphics. Scalable, the S. Vector graphics. Do you know I've got that logo on a sticker on my wallet? So big SVG fan. And this is an image format. So that's the type of file this image is. Somebody else was saying, well, there's something vector graphics. It was something vector graphics. And this just means they're super, super good for stretching. They've got support for activity in the anime. Let me go ahead and chuck this in here. You don't need me to read Wikipedia to you, but it's one of those nice things where, oh, dang, what is this? The infinite depth of search as it exists means we could just go get it. Yeah. And it is never, I don't think it's embarrassing. Let's get rid of this image. I don't think it's embarrassing to say, oh, I don't know what's going on. I've got to look it up. So today we're going to be doing some painting and we're going to start right from the beginning. You might say, Jess, you're leaving us to do all the hard stuff on our own. And I say, I absolutely am. So we're going to start our project and look how intense this is. Look how chaotic, like chaos. And this is the kind of controllable chaos that can't hurt us. Let's make a very, very loud. Does that do it? Oh, it doesn't. I was kind of hoping maybe these little musical signs might do something, but we're gonna do something with music soon. Let's start coding. Amazing. All right, we're going to do the thing we've done a bunch of times before. If you're just joining us, not a problem. This is not scary. We do this in the earlier ones. And if you want to see our old classes, I know that Twitch only saves them for a couple weeks, but head on over to the Class Central YouTube channel. They hold on to them forever. So every time I say something goofy, it just exists forever. So we're going to set up our HTML structure. We've done this a bunch of times. I'm going to forget how to do this, and it can't hurt us. So we're going to set our doc type HTML. Why didn't you like that? I think that works. And here I'm going to start with an HTML tag. And it used to give us these one by one, and now it's giving them all. So I'm going to set our doc type. Hey, browser, I'm making some HTML, chill. Within our first HTML tag, I'm going to set the language to English. And today we'll just go for maybe about an hour. So probably no break today. One thing I do want to point out, let me finish this one first. One thing I do want to point out is this section is huge. I don't expect you to finish this overnight. And we're only going to do a little tiny chunk of this just to get started. I'm abandoning you after an hour, not because I'm going to go out and do cool stuff. I'm going to go watch horror movies. But because this is one of those lessons that I really like not to let people struggle with, that would sound mean, but to let people explore. So this, oh, how do I get this here? How do I move this over? Is one of my favorite ones. We don't need a main one yet. I think we've got to get a little green stripe out of this. Perfect. Everything's fine. All right, let's set up our meta tag. Here we want to set our char set. this is just saying, hey, browser, here's the type of characters we're going to be using. We can do this. Let me say I'm going to be using UTF-8 because that's the kind of encoding we use all the time. Where am I? Where are we? Let's also add a title, and a title isn't going to hurt us. I love how patient you all are when you learn with me because I just lie to you all the time where I'm like, oh, it's just programming. Programming can't hurt you. But I think we've gotten far enough now where you've got to a point where you've gotten stuck on something. You've been stuck for a while, and it does hurt a little bit. I'm softly lying to you. It can only, deal psychic damage. So we've got a title, Picasso painting. We've got that green stripe. We're fine. Nothing can hurt us today. Nothing can hurt us while we're still learning. We're going to get our link. And the row for this link, it's a style sheet. Okay. And then I'm going to set our ref where we're throwing the destination to this link of. Oh, so somebody's got a really good question. Let me go ahead and finish this. I'm going to answer this for you. So someone's asking, hey. So if I'm building a website, am I also going to do the design generally? If I'm freelancing, will I design it as well as develop it? And I'm so sorry. The answer here is it depends. Isn't that a rough question? A rough answer. So sometimes your client, if you're freelancing, will say, "Oh, here you go. I've got the wireframes, the mock-ups of this. Let's keep going. It's fine. All sorted. I've got the design. I just need you to sort of render it in code." And sometimes they say, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna need you to design it too." So let's also link. We oh. So this is quite cool because it said get to a link, and we just linked to our style sheet. So what is this? Here, this is telling us, well, you know what? I want you the same way you'd link to a font. I want you to link to a library, not necessarily of letters, but I want you to link to a font of SVG icons. Yeah. Oh, Kudos has to make a good point. Says, you know what? If you're freelancing and they ask you to do the design too, you make sure you charge them extra money. Yeah. I mean, right? Wisdom in action. So here, we're going to add another style sheet. Okay, it's not our CSS. It's going to link to the ref is where it links to. It's going to link us to this library of SVG icons. Wild. Let's come in here. I'm moderately sure we're going to get a little, we've got that little tiny green stripe. Everything's fine. Nothing can hurt us. Let's start painting. Let's start painting, my loves. And you notice for folks who are brand new, we've got a couple of different files in here, and that's super chill. Over here, we've got the HTML, and this is the language we use to write our, really put the content on the page. That's chill. And then next to it, we've got our CSS. I'm going to let my lovely students explain what's going on with CSS. Yeah. And over here on the end, we've got the preview, and that's sort of what it looks like for our users. So somebody who's not me, tell me, what does CSS do? So I'm going to use our body. So I'm going to use a type selector for our body. Let's see where that is. Yeah. So not a lot. Here's our body, and there's no content in it. I wonder what it's going to do, because when we use divs and there's no content, we change the background. It doesn't really do much. But here we've got this body and no content. Do you think it's gonna change the color in the background, or it's not? Oh, so Kinjal makes a great point. CSS is cascading style sheets. This is the language you use to style stuff. Amazing. Where am I? Where are we? Somebody said the body. Goodbye, HTML. Let's check and see how much of this changes. I think I've got a little bit of, I'm cheating. I've done this before. I've got a pretty good idea of how this is going to go. Look at me. Ho, 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 ho. And we're going to use this RGB selector, this little function right here that sets our color. Oh. I'm pretty sure I did our background color right. And I'm not seeing anything. Let's check. Let's test. Is it? Because there's no content? Oh, it's not because there's no content. Oh gosh, did I? I did not. I did not. I did background color with a U. I was like, that seems weird that that's not working. I've done this before. Well, good news, team. I am officially very, very British now. I'm going to check our code and it says, Jess, yeah, for CSS, you got to use the American spellings, Jess. And that's what that test has for us. And it's fine. Even when we're wrong, it's just learning. It can't hurt us. So we've talked about divs. A div is a, it's just a box. And it's not a super smart box. It doesn't carry a lot of semantic meaning. It doesn't carry inherent meaning with itself. But I've got a div and I'm going to set the ID here. Now, I saw somebody ask a really good question I saw somebody ask a really good question in the Discord maybe yesterday and said, well, you know what? Oh, where are we? Give it an ID. Oh, back wall. And they were saying, well, when do I use a class and when do I use an ID? So generally, if you're using an ID, it's unique. You're only going to have one element with that ID. Yeah, whereas a class, think of a class as a club for your elements and you set all the rules at the same time for them. So if you think, oh, I might use these rules for someone else, then go ahead and use a class. If you say, nope, you're unique. I just want a name tag that points you out. Then I think it's ID time. Okay, so let's use that div. And so I previewed this. Well, somebody's asking, well, should we not use ID unless it's absolutely necessary? We shouldn't use important unless it's absolutely necessary. But I think using IDs, I'm fine with IDs. Yeah. Use an ID whenever you want to, when it makes sense. Let's use an ID selector. Oh, yeah. So remember that when we do a type selector, we just write the type of the HTML tag here. We got that. When we use a class selector, we use a full stop. And it's always hard to remember, isn't it, that when we do a ID, we want to, Kinjal saying that much better than I could, to say, okay, when I said use them as much as you want, Kinjal points out to say, well, definitely use them when you want to, but only use each ID once because they're unique. So if you've got an ID called Jessica, you can only ever have one Jessica. Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, and Cassie was asking, well, you know what? Free Code Camp often in the earlier lessons had us do class instead of ID, even when we only did one, even when that class was unique in our code. What's with that? And I think that's an abstraction thing. So they were like, well, we've introduced you to type selectors first. Let's get you comfortable with using class more and more. And now that you all are terribly advanced, it says, okay, they know what they're doing. Let's throw in all of those as well. We've got somebody asking if we're going to do some frameworks as well. We're still discussing what we're going to do next. I don't think we have any. Wait, hang on. I'm going to use the ID. I'm going to copy and paste back wall this time, just because y'all have seen my spelling is rubbish today. And here I'm going to set the background color. So folks are asking what we're going to do next for the boot camps. I'm not super sure yet. Background. I know we want to do more of these color, no you. And here we're going to use the hex code instead of the RGB. These are both completely chill ways to get this done. I know this worked this time because I'm going to check my code and it'll give me that. Why did body paint the whole background? And why is our div called back wall? Why is back wall doing absolutely nothing here? We're not seeing that dark brown color come up. What's wrong with this div where nothing's worked? I cannot yet speak to what we're going to do, but I can promise that Ramon and I are going to do more stuff. We're definitely going to rerun this boot camp as it is. Oh, so this is the problem where this div was an empty box, and we're not going to keep that hello. Thank you, Carlos. Absolutely right. And says there's nothing in it, so it's an empty box with no size. Fabulous. Absolutely, Cassium, to say, well, unless you give it content or unless you give it a size, yeah, Tammy's, well, we could have added height and width and we would have gotten something. And I think this is the shortest, most concise way to say it. And I hope you don't mind me complimenting you. Critique is like, well, you know what? There's both no size. We could have added a size to get this, and there's also no content. So the two things we would have needed to have this work just don't exist. I'm going to get rid of our hello, and I'm going to check our code. That's fine. Let's keep bopping along. Let's keep making art. Let's make a back wall element. Oh, oh, we've already got a back wall element. We're inside our ID selector, so we're inside our little curly babies. So we just need to add some more rules. That's chill. We're going to give it a width of 100%. Oh, 100% of what? 100% of its parent element. And we added this width. We added some size, but still nothing. Well, okay. Well, it's wide, but it has no height at all and no content. So you could, yeah, make it as wide as you want and with no height. Oh, and this is gonna be 60% of its parent. Oh, so it made it 60% of the body. Okay. This is super chill. I'm moderate. Shep, look at you. Marvelous. It's gonna be 100% of the parent's width. And you might notice, I'm not calling you wrong because you're not wrong, but we've got a little bit of default margin here, don't we? Yeah, we've got it gives us a little bit of space by default, and I bet we're gonna be messing with that in a minute. Yeah. I love this, Cassium. What? Because you say, okay, cool. I want this to be 100% wide, and the browser's like, okay, okay, y'all. I know how wide to make it, but do you want me to guess how tall this is supposed to be? What are we even doing here? So let's check our code. That's a green stripe. We can keep bopping along. So this is really chill. This is super cool. As a rule, generally speaking, unless you do something weird, HTML wants to read like a book. They want to start at the top and read down. And your CSS will do the same thing. So think of your browser as a weird little computer. My browser's weird. Your weird little computer wants to come and you give it these two files, probably more than two, but you give it your HTML and you give it your CSS, and it takes them and sort of folds them up and says, oh, yes, 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 I'm going to start at the top and start reading down. And that's the way it'll put it, where you say, oh, I would like a div. And it says, well, I've gotten to the div. I'll give you a div. Elements at the top of the code are at the top of the page by default. But maybe you want to wiggle stuff around. Maybe you want to get weird. Let's get weird. And we can get weird using the position property. So we're still inside our back wall. Okay. And we're going to set the position. We're going to set it to absolute. Did I spell it? No, I did not spell absolute right. We want to copy and paste absolute. Yeah. And we saw it flex a little bit, but not do too much. And what absolute means is say, hey, you know what? This document flow, this sort of default flow where it'll push and pull and move around. But you know what? We'd like you to not do that. I'm gonna specify where you want to sit, and I'm gonna sort of take little tiny nails and put you there, removing you from the flow. And Jeff is saying, you know what? I've heard we should avoid iconic fonts because they can be messy with screen readers. I've heard that as well. And do you know what? If this isn't a bother, I'm just like kicking it to somebody else. We've actually got an expert joining us. So one of my I'm just bragging about knowing nice people, but one of my very, very favorite folks in the accessibility space is the head of accessibility over at booking.com. And Parham is going to be joining us not this Thursday. This Thursday, we're going to have Miguel come and talk to us about Firefox dev tools. And we've used dev tools a couple of times to see what's going on, and that's super chill. But the Thursday after that, which is the 6th, oh no, it can't be October next week. Y'all, it is October next week. Oh no. So next Thursday, we're going to have Parham come. And not only is he the head of accessibility, he's also a full-time screen reader user himself. So saying, hey, Parham, can I use these iconic fonts? Is that what? I bet he's going to have a much better explanation than I will. Where am I? So we did this. And now, ooh, let's go ahead. So we can move it within the layout using top, left, right, and bottom. And you say, Jess, you just sort of did your hands like that. I'm mirrored in the camera. So I used to try and be like, oh, yeah, to the right. And doing it mirrored is just it did not spark joy. So we're going to set top. I'm going to move top to 0. Okay. So I said, look, that default margin, because Carlos, and this is Carlos, I'm not telling you wrong because you're absolutely right. Carlos said, hey, if we wanted to get rid of that default padding, that default margin, we could say, hey, in the body, don't give me any margin, don't give me any padding. That would solve it. You are absolutely right. But here's a way to do something with this element, removing it from the flow, that gives us a similar visual effect, or the same visual effect. I'm going to set the left to 0 as well. Oh, look at that, just went away. Yeah, everything's fine. And we're going to go on to the next one. Yeah, z-index. Z-index is the worst. It's not actually. I just always forget about it. Z-index is like layers. Has anybody used stuff like Photoshop or any? I don't even know what y'all design folks are using these days. But a lot of design software these days lets you draw in layers. But here what we're going to do is we're going to draw in layers using CSS. And I like to think of Z-index as a stack of pancakes. Or, you know what, a stack of books. You know what? This is going to make me sound like I'm trying to be too teachery, but I admit I change my bookshelves for the boot camp. If we get all books about ethics and relaxing, and when the books camp's not in season, I just have like comic books behind me and books about ethics. Let me get 3 books and we'll talk about a Z-index. So I really like, let's get human rights in the age of platforms. Who doesn't like human rights? And I'm grabbing these specifically because the covers are very different colored. And then let's also get, what do we think? Oh, Silicon Values is quite good. So we've got 2 books about ethics. Wow, really? All these books are about ethics in a different way. 2 of these look very similar. Let me put you back. Human rights. I'm not actually shelving human rights. I'm just putting that book back as an example. Do these look pretty different? We've got a pink book about self-direction for adult learners. We've got a white and orange book about prison abolitionism. Yeah. And we've got a black book about, this one's about censorship and surveillance capitalism. So really what the Z-index is saying is, hey, I've got this stack of books, and the higher it is, the highest one is going to be the one on top, the one we're able to see. So if we've got the stack of books sort of tessellated out, I need a better example. The one we're going to see, the one on top, is the one we're going to see the most of, the highest value. The one on the bottom, the one with the lowest value, has the potential to hide completely behind this if our elements are the same size. We should do a book club. And that probably still doesn't make a lot of sense, but let's go ahead and look at it. So our back wall element wants to have a lower Z-index. It wants to be behind. It wants to be at the back of our stack of books, with the bottom of our stack of pancakes. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, you know what? We're going to set our Z-index, and that's the property we're going to be using. We should really have some kind of a little book club, shouldn't we? Really, I'm just trying to indoctrinate you all and be like, oh, yes, wouldn't it be lovely for us to talk about ethics in tech and like how surveillance works in different kinds of tech? Because all of y'all are going to be doing very fancy, so we're going to set this to -1. And that hasn't really done anything yet. And I think the reason this hasn't done much yet is it's in the back of a stack by itself. That's like me grabbing human rights in the age of platforms and saying, okay, I've got a stack of books that's just 1 and you're in the back. I say, oh, well, I mean, it's in the back. I've moved it back, but it's still on top because it's all by itself. I'm going to check my code. We got that green stripe, so it's suggesting it's okay. I should add, yeah, I don't know any of these authors. I don't get a kickback for recommending these books. I just like them. Although if you know any of these authors, let me know. I'd like to get them signed. So below our back wall, so naturally, the natural document flow would put this under it, but we're going to be doing weird stuff to the document flow. We're going to make another div, yeah? And the div here is going to have a class instead of an ID. suggesting we might have more than one of these, more than one element with the same class name. You know what? I don't trust that I'm typing anything right today. I'm going to copy and paste characters because a happy programmer is a lazy programmer. We've got that green stripe. Let's buff over. Let's go ahead and, or let's make some more divs then. A div, and then we're going to use this one with an ID, suggesting, well, more than suggesting. Best practices say that this is the only element that's going to have this name. And this one's going to be called off-white character. I'm going to copy and paste that just so I don't typo your time away. Got a little green stripe. Nothing bad is happening. Everything's fine. Okay. We're going to put 4 divs inside our off-white characters. That means they're the children of our off-white character. Okay. They're nested within our off-white character. And you say, Jess, it's kind of boring that there's so many different ways to say the same thing. And I say, I get you, Babbitts. It is indeed. And all of these are going to have an ID. So can you tell me what are the happiest programmers like? What are the traits we all share? Is it that we are very, I said I was going to stop saying I was lazy to you all. We're energy efficient. All of the happiest programmers are very energy efficient. White hat, black mask, gray instrument. And these are really nice. These are very human readable IDs, aren't they? These are saying, hey, you know what? Even though I haven't done these yet, I've got a pretty good idea of what they're going to look like, don't I? And check my code. It's fine. We knew it was going to be fine. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and make 2 different divs to make eyes inside our black mask. Okay. So we've got we've got our black mask here, and it's helpfully put us on the right line. And here I want to make a div, and these are definitely going to be a class. So they both have the class of eyes, and then one of them has a class of left, and one of them has a class of right. Okay. And being very, very lazy, I'm just going to do this once. Oh, wait. Very, very energy efficient. Very loving shortcuts. There we are. Oh, let's make this even more energy efficient. Oh, eyes, isn't it? So I've said div class equals eyes. I'm going to copy this and paste it. I could type it twice, and here I've got left. Here I've got right, and I'm just adding those classes to our existing classes right next to eyes, the little space. Check our code. Everything's fine. We're going to make some dots for the instruments. Okay. I'm going to make 5 div elements inside my gray instrument, and all of them are going to have the class of black dot. And y'all know way before I do this, right? I'm going to do it once because these all have the same class. This is the same element 5 times. Y'all know I'm going to type this once. So we got a div, and our class is black dots. Oh, black dot. I'm going to close my div. Okay. Here, I need 5 of these, so I'm going to copy my precious child right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, heck. Hello. 5. There we are. Check my code. It said, yeah, Bobby, you can totally go ahead and copy and paste. Nothing bad's going to happen. So when we made our off-white character, we didn't do anything. So it's not really going to show up yet. And that's fine. That's not a problem. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to use an ID selector. So it's that starting with a hash. I'm going to copy and paste off-white character. Amazing. And then we get our curly babies. So we've said, okay, I want to make a rule for my unique ID of this one. Yeah. And I'm saying, you know what? You're not going to show up until we make some space for you. So I'm going to set a width of 300 pixels, and still nothing happens. And this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun because you say, okay, well, Jess, I don't see this yet because you've added a width and no height. We just did this. I know what you're talking about. But. Made a height of 550 pixels and still nothing. This time. Why? It has a size. This div with this ID has a width of 300 pixels. It has a height of 550. What's going on here where we still can't see a thing? And I think that y'all are going to have a really good idea of why this isn't showing up. Let me grab a little glass of water. Yeah. Why do you think I don't see a thing? So our div exists. I promise we can look at it. Where are you? Off-white character, off-white character. Here's off-white character. I definitely see that div. And it's got a width. And it's, oh, Carlos, after my own heart. Carlos is like, look, you've got this div. It exists, but it's kind of de facto imaginary. I don't know if it's inherited its parent's color or it doesn't have a color itself. So let's check. Let's add this. Ooh, goodbye. Let's add this color and see where it lands here. I think it has inherited its parent's color. Oh, do you know how? Oh, cat. This this is a job interview way to answer this question. So Cassium's like, oh, do you know what? Currently, our div doesn't have any visual properties. I love this. That is very, very professional. If we want to say, well, I want to see. Oh no. Hey, okay, so I think that maybe it doesn't inherit its parents' color right here. And I'm not picking on you. I'm not trying to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But here I think it's important to point out, oh, you know what color I think it inherited is none. I think it's a completely invisible conceptual box still. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm picking on you where I'm like, oh, that sounds really reasonable. Let's test. Because I was willing to go with it as well. But let's go ahead and we've drawn a border around this because whenever you're like, I'm not super sure what's happening here, you can ask someone, but usually you're going to be stuck asking me. Mitch makes a good point. Transparent is a much better way to say that. Background color, no you. We learned that. And here we're going to use, so before, let's look at the different, let's just review the different ways we've done color. So we've got our RGB where we said how much red we want, how much green we want, and how much blue we want. Here we've done our hex code, which is again red, and then our second two characters are how much green, and our last two are how much blue. Okay, is that true? That feels true. And here we're going to use a color keyword. And there's a couple of color keywords right out of the box. We said pink. Boom, she's pink. Oh, Cassian's asking something, making a really good point and talking about inheritance. And we'll be talking about inheritance more and more. And inheritance is saying, you know what, if I've got an element that's a child, oftentimes it will inherit the qualities around it. Yeah, we'll talk about this more in next lessons, but let's also grab MDN inheritance. Obviously, there's a bunch of different ways to um, to look stuff up and different documentations. But let's grab inheritance just for CSS because if you're studying JavaScript with Ramon, inheritance is going to be the same general vibe, but it'll sort of refer to different stuff. So this means I haven't set a rule, but the element I'm messing with has a parent, and that parent has a rule. And instead of getting it set just for them, they're going to say, oh, what's my mama doing? I'm just going to do what my mama's doing. Where am I? Where are we? So ghost white, we got that white box. I feel moderate. We got that green stripe. Everything's fine. Let's move it. Okay. So first to move it and like not have to move it again when we add more stuff, we're going to add this position of absolute. Really, this is saying, hey, you know what? It didn't move at all. That's fine. This is saying, hey, you know what? I know HTML that you've got a flow, you've got an order you like to put stuff in, and I respect that. But my beloved browser of choice, I want this to not be part of that flow. So this element, exclude it from the I have a permission slip. It doesn't have to do flow today. It doesn't have to do document flow. I'm gonna set a top value of 20%. And we're saying, I want to move you down 20% within its parent. Yeah. Carlos has a really good example of inheritance to say, okay, if you sent the font size for your parent, then all of the descendants will have that font size. But makes a really good point. Not all CSS properties are inherited. So the link we've just sent you that is super, super useful. Thank you so much, my love. So if I say, hey, I want all of my text in my body to have extra spacing, by default, all of the children, all the divs, all the paragraphs will have that rule. Oh gosh, and Rem and M are going to be inherited too. Kinjal, look at you after my own heart. Where are we? The top 20%. We're going to move it left. Left. And I think a lot of just left a little bit. 17.5. I think we got a green stripe. Whoa, excuse me. 17. My awful character should have a left property set to 17.5%. By default, if you don't specify the unit of measurement, it just goes ahead and assumes you mean pixels. And I was thinking, well, that doesn't feel like 17%. Verily, thank you so much, my love. Saying, Jess, do the percent. Now we've got that green stripe. It's fine. Everything's fine. Let's give this a border. Let's use our ID selector. Oop, heck. We're not giving this a border. We're giving white hat, which is a ID. So we're using this ID selector. And we're going to give you a width. Oh, this is weird. I'm going to give you a width of 0. I'm going to give you a height. I'm going to give you a height. I'm going to give you a 0. Wild. Isn't that wild? Now I'm going to give you a border style of solid. Well, what do we think this is going to do? So there's no height and there's no width. And now I'm giving you a border? What? What? Did y'all even see? There's a little tiny, almost, can you? So my little old lady asked, there's the tiniest little, let me get rid of her. There's just the tiniest little black box that shows up here. And what's going on is it's giving us the default weight for border, and it's drawing around. It's just drawing around something that has no height and no width. Isn't that nice and weird? We could go ahead and make this black box bigger by making the border chunkier. But let's check. We got that. Even though this feels weird and we only got that little tiny black box, let's check it. Verity points out this is nice and autumnal. Those of us in the northern hemisphere, where at least me, it is the first chilly week out here. And this is saying, you know what? This looks weird. And this even says, like, look, it's just a tiny black box. We wanted a hat, and we wanted a white hat. So what do we? Let's set a border width. We're going to set that of 0, 120 pixels, 140 pixels, and 180 pixels. Oh, okay. So our element itself hasn't changed shape. And this feels wild, but you say, well, Jess, it's obviously changed size and shape. Look at it. I said, well, work with me here. The element itself has stayed the same size. But what's happened is I've taken the border around it and I've made the border no chubbier at the top, way chubbier. Yeah, so it's sort of stretched way out and then way down. Huh. So this is at least to me, it feels like a kind of weird way to do this, but it's just letting us practice all the different ways. So we got a large box. Let's give it a border. Okay. Look at these, a border top. So I think we're going to, and I'm going to copy these just so I type these right, because I've done this. Got a border top color of transparent. Okay. So our border top color is transparent, but our border top is 0. So that's not too surprising. Dominica, you were after my own heart. Dominica's like, look, in step 59, so way ahead in this lesson. Don't worry if you've done it. Dominica's like, look, I'm so sorry, but step 59 wants us to add 30 divs. Is there a shortcut of this, or do we need to copy and paste it 30 times? I think the shortcut for this is copy and paste. I mean, you can copy and paste it 5 times, and then copy that and copy and paste it. But like, yeah, I think this is going to be a copy and paste thing. If you're using a text editor, yeah, Veramy's saying, look, I just hit Control C 30 times. Yeah. Usually I say, oh, if you want to type it out instead of copying and pasting, you could do that and get the muscle memory. I'm not going to tell y'all how to live, but 30 times, do not type that out. Pointy baby, div, pointy baby, pointy. Nah, you don't need to do that 30 times. You probably need to paste it 30 times. Border left color is transparent. Okay, so we're doing some weird stuff. I want you to be transparent. You know what? Because I'm a little bit lazy, border top color left. Left transparent as well. Oh, look at you. Look at you. That's wild. I said the border left is transparent and it said boom. This is going to be my meanest question. Why is it at such a weird angle? Why do we have like a little triangle thing? Hmm. Why if I said, hey, make the left transparent, why isn't it just come in? And it's the answer to this is up on line 28. I'm just being mean to y'all every time I need to drink water. And then we're going to set, and border right is transparent as well. What's going to happen here? Border top. Okay. Cassie is so right. Be like, y'all, this is absolutely ridiculous. What is, check it out. Oh, actually, I'm gonna stick with you. CSS is so weird. CSS is super weird. Computers are weird though. This is metal and glass that lets us make art with words. We're effectively wizards in a new age. We're very boring wizards. But what's going on here is our border is set to 0 at the top, and then our borders, the left and right, are 120 and 140. So when we say, hey, I want to set, it's going ahead and making us a little point. It's being nice and weird. And then we're going to set our bottom border color. Isn't this wild? And y'all can change these numbers around to see what it does. Bottom border color, I'm going to set you to ghost. What? This cannot possibly mean what it went. Okay, that's what I meant. So we drew a hat and then we made our hat invisible. What do you mean we drew a hat and then we made our hat invisible? Why would we draw? So it's not invisible, it's white on top of a white background. I bet we're going to change our background and have that hat pop back up in a little bit. Yeah. Let's go on to our next challenge. So we're going to give our hat a position of absolute and say, look, you know what, browser, I know you've got a flow you like, but I've got a flow. I've got a vision in my heart. You say, okay, I'm going to, and really, when we set this position to absolute, we're saying, I'm giving you a permission slip. You do not have to think about the rules of document flow. We have a top value of minus 140 pixels. So I'm moving you down. Oh, I'm moving you a minus because 140 pixels from the top would push it down, but 140 pixels minus sort of pulls it up. And this is wild with the positioning because you think, oh, the top, if I set 140 pixels to the top, it would push it down. And you say, but it's the top. But doesn't that mean go up? And I said, no, it's from the top. So a positive here would be pushing it down 140 pixels, but a negative is pulling it up. And you say, Jess, that's weird as hell. I say, that is weird as hell. I'm sorry. That's right next door to cussing, and I try not to do that. Our position of left, 0. Okay, so we're not changing where the left sits. Is that? We got a green line. It feels weird, but and that's so much of programming, isn't it? To say, well, this feels weird, but it says it's right. Let's keep going. Let's write some rules for our black mask, which is still feeling very Halloweeny, isn't it? Oh, are y'all young enough where you're or parenty enough where y'all are celebrating Halloween? It is a month and a week away, and I'm already like, well, what are we doing for Halloween? We're gonna set it a width of 100%, like 100% of its parent element, 100% of the body. Nothing yet, just because we haven't given it. It's only got width, no height, and no visual attributes yet. Nothing that we can see. We've got a height of 50 pixels. And that's one of our absolute units. A pixel is always a pixel is always a pixel. And our background color, I'm going to set you to RGB. And let's just talk about this as we do this, because this can feel a little mysterious. I'm saying, hey, you know what? I can have anywhere between 0 red and 255 red. I want you to give me 45 red, if that's okay. This is a little blob of red. Oh, somebody's asking, when we use the position absolute, where does it have the beginning? So when we set the position, oh, that's a good question. If I'm saying I'm removing you from the normal flow, where do you sit? Hang on, let me finish this and let's take a look at the NDN. I think what you're saying is, hey, I'm removing you from the normal flow. Go ahead and sit where you'd want to sit anyway. And when I want you someplace different, I'll go ahead and move you. Where are we? What are we doing with our lives? So I'm saying, oh, you know what? Just give me a little bit, like a moderate amount of red. Give me less green and give me even less blue. Huh. Looks black on y'all's screen, but that's sort of a very chocolatey, very werewolfy. Oh, can we start doing Halloween themed stuff yet? So we get a very werewolfy brown. And here, I think so. Let's take a look. We got that really good question from where'd you go? From Dominica saying, you know what, I kind of don't get it when we use position absolute, where does it go? Where's its default? I think it's gonna stay where it already is. And what we're doing is we're saying, hey, where you are now, go ahead and hang out there. But I'm probably gonna add some extra rules about where you're gonna live. Position absolute, assuming I spelled absolute right. Absolute. No, there's only one O in absolute. And you want to say, okay, the top is going to be 0. And the left is going to be 0. Hmm. So don't move you at all? Okay, don't move you at all. Yeah, so when we made the first box, when we made the brown div, Cassian points out that when we made the brown div, by default, it wanted to sit in the top left of its parent element. And that tends to be how it wants to. So HTML is read from the top to bottom and renders top to bottom. Is that true? HTML renders top to bottom and left to right. Hey, wait. Oh, no, I love y'all. I'm not gonna get you into the HTML spec quite yet. I think that by default, it wants to lay stuff out the way Western writing usually. Okay, let's give it a z-index of 1, and now we're gonna start to get messy. Way too much joy in my voice, isn't it, to be like, hey, this is gonna be a mess. So we've got 2 z-indexes now, and actually, let's do some stuff with the z-index, to sort of visualize how this changes. And Dalibor is saying, hey, can I see both files at the same time without having to select files in every step? Here, so you can leave both of them tabbed open. Oh, heck. and leave them like this if you want. Where you're going to be working outside the tutorial environment, you can leave the same thing, different tabs, huh? So the HTML spec is super cool. I wasn't trying to imply, oh no, I'm not going to take a look yet. But I just don't want to make this more confusing. So right now we've got two Z indexes, two books in our stack. And this one that says Z index of 1, I would say, hey, I want you to be visible. This is Z index of -1. To ensure I can see the mask, set a Z index of 1. What happens if I set a Z index of 5? Still the same. What happens if I set a Z index of -5? It's vanished. But it hasn't vanished. It hasn't. It has, I promise. I mean, visually, it's vanished. But what's happened is it's under. Wait, where are you under? Where are you under? Where am I? It's under our back wall now. Remember that the Z index that has the highest number is going to be on top. And then the second highest number behind it. And then the third highest number behind that. And when I said this is a -1, generally, just to keep it straight in my head, I always want to make the back one the only negative number because I mess these up. It's that's not a hard and fast rule. But I do that just because otherwise I'll forget. Here I say what? I say, hey babe, you know what? I've got the back wall is -1. And to keep this straight in my heart, as a little rule to myself, I personally, this is just how I do it. I'm only ever going to have one negative number for my Z index just because I'm like, I definitely want you in the back. You're going to be the only negative number. And here I said, this one's a 1. It's on top. That's chill. I bet you're green. You're green. Everything's fine. So we're going to use the ID selector, and that's our little hash sign. That's chill. I'm going to copy and paste gray instrument just because I see a lot of typing stuff wrong. And do you know what? I've promised we're only going for an hour, so we're just going to hang out for another 10 minutes or so. But go ahead and just yell any of your questions at me. And ooh, I'm really, really excited because a lot of you were talking about, look, instead of giving the important stuff, I'm taking a look at y'all's. So somebody's going trick or treating with a younger sibling of the family. Oh, that's so nice. Jeff's complaining. You're saying the kids in your family don't want candy. The kids in your building don't want candy. I want candy. Oh, and some of y'all young people are going to Halloween parties. I love this. Great instrument. Let's go ahead. Let's give you a size, my love. Your width is going to be 15%. That's 15% of the parent element. We don't say anything yet. We're not worried about that. We've done this a couple times, and we know you need a height and a width, but also you need some visual dimensions. Without some visual stuff, you're just a transparent box. And we're going to set your background color. And we've talked about some people just magically know what color it is when they see these RGB or hex codes. And I am not magical. So we'll learn together that it's, sort of it's a little bit of an olivey brown gray. Okay, let's bop along. None of this is going to hurt us. So now we're going to set position absolute. We'll say, hey, I don't care about the normal flow. I don't care about the rules. I think when we set position absolute, it's going to continue to chill here. And then once we say, I want to remove you from the rules, we can move it around. Yeah. I'm going to copy and paste absolute just because y'all have seen I refuse to learn to spell this like an adult. Our position is absolute. It didn't move her around at all. And that's fine. That's just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to do some stuff here. Let's say I want to set the top value to 50 pixels. Ooh. Okay, so that's, that feels like we made it longer. But you know what I want to do? I want to check and see the index of 3. That made it look longer again. Let's get rid of this top. Do you know what was happening? Okay, I know what's happening. And I bet money y'all do too. So we're dealing with the magic the frustrating horror movie magic. And do you know what? I'm being mean to Z-index just because I have a really hard time remembering what lies where. But what happened here is we said we had 2 specified, and we said our back wall is -1, it's in the back, and our front, our top, our mask is a 1, so it's on the top. And here it said, "Well, okay, I know you want that in the back and that in the front. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this in the middle. I'm not sure what you want, Jess." So, and when I said Z-index 3, I said, "Push this to the very front." That's the highest number we have. So here where I say the top is 50 pixels, it's not making it longer, it's pushing it down. It's pushing it 50 pixels from the top. Okay. It didn't tell us to do this Z-index, so I'm gonna get rid of her. And here I've got a left, and that's gonna be 125 pixels. Oh, so push that way over, that's chill. Oh, Jane, I like this. Jane is saying, "Hey, we could visualize a Z-index as an elevator." Huh. Where if you're looking down from the top of the elevator shaft, which sounds very dangerous, you'd see the person on the highest floor. Imagining it's a clear floors, and see you're in a perfectly clear elevator. You're in Willy Wonka's factory, and you're looking down, and folks who are on a higher floor, you're going to see them on top of the folks who are on the lower floors. Oh, I really like this, sort of like a transparent building, and then the elevator floor is going up and down. Oh, I like this quite a bit. I'm so sorry, Jane. I'm going to steal that from you. Check our everything. So everything continues to be fun. Let's set our Z index to 1. Because we already have a Z index. Is that going to work? Seem to work. So we're saying, okay, our gray instrument and our black mask are on the same level right now. Oh, okay. Okay. So let's use a class selector for our black dot element. And remember that let's look at all of these just to review. I'm just being boring. Our type selectors, we don't type anything in front of them. Our ID selectors, we put that little hash in front of them. That's super chill. And what do we do for our class selectors? Y'all know we do a full stop and our black dot. And this we got our curly babies out. This black dot's really cool because we've got, let's look at our HTML. I'm gonna squish up my art for a second. We've got 5 of those black dots, don't we? So any rules we set for I'm not snapping at you, I'm snapping at my brain. I'm so sorry. Any rules we set for this class, it's going to do it 5 times. That seems pretty cool. I do a bunch of very rude things when I'm by myself, like snapping and sort of fussing at myself. And I've definitely got to stop doing that on stream. So we're going to set our width to 10 pixels. And we're not seeing anything yet. That's super chill. That's not a big deal. Our height, set you to 10 pixels. Also, meditatively chill. I love that. Wait, Cassie, I'm stealing from you. This full stop. So if we continue to think of a class as making a club and making rules for our club, when we use the selector, that full stop is to say, stop. Are you in this club? You know what? If you come back and see the next time I teach that, I'm going to steal this. I'll try and remember, be like, oh, we had this learner, Cassium, and just as smart and good as all of our other very cool, aggressively cool. I'm going to copy and paste this RGB because I'm very energy efficient today. Let's get that. Oh, wait. That's because I've done all of this bit rubbish. A background color. You say, well, Jess, you told me that we'd have 5 of these, and I just see one sort of black box. And that black box, now that we think about it, kind of feels like it's bigger than 10 pixels by 10 pixels. That should be a cube. And we've got a really big rectangle here. And I say, it's chill. We do have a big rectangle here. And do you know what? If we wanted to see what's going on, I think these rectangles are just stacked right on top of each other. Boop, 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 boop. And I say, well, give me a little bit of margin. I set a margin on top of 20 pixels. There we go. So these 5 black dots, these 5 black squares that are in the black dot club, were just all hanging out right on top of each other. And it looked like one element when they were 5. And what we wanted to do is say, I'm going to remove that margin top because it didn't tell me to. I say, hey, let's go ahead. Let me experiment it. Let me get a little bit weird just to see what's going on here. We saw what's going on here. It didn't hurt us a bit. We've got that. Let's do one more. And you fuss at me if you have any questions about anything. Oh, Carlos makes a good point. If we wanted to see this as well, we also could have gone into Dev Tools and highlight that. I don't want to cheat too much because Miguel is going to come and he's so nice. He's so fantastic. He was a volunteer I worked with at Mozilla, which is a very big fancy company making browsers. And he's so smart and I know y'all are going to be super nice and polite to him, right? Ooh. So here, I like this. One thing that's super, super, super weird is that by default, all your HTML elements are boxes. Here, we want these boxes to be dots. So we're going to have a box and we're going to squish the outside. We're going to squish the border radius until it looks like a circle. Set our border radius to 50%. Hey, perfect. And this gives us, it's very small, but this gives us the same thing where we can see the dot nature. And now it looks so like a little short necklace or a little short chain. Let's check our cut. This is green. It doesn't look like we have a ton of questions. So I might lovingly, and I've been terrible to y'all because this is 30. This is step 30. It's going to be little tiny steps like this, but it's going to be a lot of little tiny steps. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm not that sorry. Look at this. I've gotten y'all maybe about a third of the way. The worst teacher, the meanest teacher. I bet Ramon would have walked you through this whole thing. And I'm just like, ha, 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 ha. No, I'm going to abandon you to the wilds. And when I say abandon you to the wilds, if you get stuck, you know where you're coming. Come on over to the forum and it's going to be fine. Or come over to the Discord. There's always going to be people there. And fuss at me. You can fuss at me if you say, Jess, you promised that this was going to be just a little bit of tiny things. If this is way more miserable than I think it is, come back and yell at me. Yeah. I mean, yell at me anyway. I'm making you do a ton of CSS. So, and Jeff is saying, oh, you've got to push the baby birds out of the nest to make them fly. So I'm doing this for 2 reasons. I'm doing this for 3 reasons. The first one is just because I'm very mean. I'm just doing it, ha ha ha, to be evil to as many people as possible. The second reason, which I think is much more important, is if you just code along with somebody else, you could just do what I say. And it doesn't really, it's not as valuable as being a little bit wrong. Really, what I really want to do is give you the chance to experiment, to get stuck, to ask each other, because it sounds cruel, and it is a little cruel, but the learning you're going to do, the stuff clicking in your brain, is going to happen when you're stuck or a little bit wrong, and you get there yourself. Yeah. And it can actually hurt you. It's just CSS. And the third big reason is I really want you to feel that you can do it. I want, oh, hey, Jess, useless, terrible, evil teacher, Jess. Definitely big that up. Oh, she's so mean. Only went through a third of this with us. And that's really what I want you to feel. I did most of this on my own. I did this is really, really what I want y'all to be saying at the end of the day. Let's talk homework. If you can get through this before tomorrow's class, that's great. But remember, there's no deadlines. This is a lot of little tiny fiddly frustrating CSS stuff. If you have to do some of this tomorrow, or if you have to do some of this over the weekend, that's chill. Or if you've got to do some of this next week or next month or next year, it is not going anywhere. Nothing bad is going to happen. Your important homework is, if it's the morning, you got to spend the whole rest of the day being as gentle to yourself as possible. If it's nighttime, if it's the afternoon, it's lunchtime. Yeah. You've got to spend, again, the whole rest of the day being as gentle to yourself as you can. If it's nighttime, you've got to spend as much time as possible being chill with yourself. Shep is saying, are we also doing the piano assignments? Yes, please. And this seems exceptionally cool because this one's really long. And then there's this responsive design for the piano. So we'll look at this a little bit tomorrow, and we're just going to spend a little bit going through these. Let's look at it now. So you can start this tomorrow if you've got time. But this is quite cool. This is very, very responsive. Oh, heck, come back, come back. This is really exciting because it's very responsive. We can squish this around. Way. And it's squish. Look, the number of keys change. It's very cool. We're going to be just previewing a little tiny bit of this tomorrow because a lot of this is stuff we've seen before. And this is another one of those ones where I'm going to cruelly and evilly abandon you. Tomorrow, I think we're going to probably actually, yeah, we're probably going to go ahead and talk about this technical documentation project for most of it. So we'll preview this piano one a little bit, but we're also going to be talking, and this is the projects are the ones that that really count towards not just finishing and getting your certificate, which is cool, but these are also going to build up your portfolio. We had somebody asking in the chat, "How do I get a job with this?" And I said, "Oh, cool. We're going to build you." We're gonna build well, I'm not gonna do it. You're going to build a portfolio you can show employers. Oh, and Linda's backing me up to say, do you know what? Ramon would make us do most of this on our own as well. Oh, good. As long as both classes have teachers being mean to you, then I am at peace. So important homework. Do as much of this one as you can tonight. And if you're a couple lessons behind, I do when I say I don't care, that sounds mean. I'm not worried. The whole point of these is you can come back to this video next week or next month or next year, and it's still going to be right there. The forum's not going away. The Discord's not going away. Nobody is going to come and say, you didn't do this on time. You failed. Everything's okay as long as you don't give up forever. And I mean, I'm not the boss of you. I can't stop you. But as long as you don't give up forever, if you come back at any point in time, this is still going to exist. Your work is still going to exist, and you can always finish. There's no deadline. Nothing bad is going to happen. Yeah. I'm going to leave you with your homework, which is try and get through this if you can. Super chill. And Michael's like, oh, is the homework to do as much of the Picasso or the piano or both? It's really about what suits you best. That's terrible, isn't it? A teacher who's like, well, you know what? It depends on your workload. If you just zip through the Picasso thing and you say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and do some of this piano stuff, do it, do it, do it. So we're just going to do a couple of lessons of the piano together tomorrow because we're going to spend most of our time looking at technical documentation. Yeah, I'm going to. So if you get through all of this and you want to do some of the piano, heck yeah, do it. If you say, oh, you know what, I'm a little bit behind and I want to go watch some horror movies or non-horror movies, I'm just getting in the spooky season spirit a bit early. I'm going to let you go. Please have the easiest possible next 24. There we are. The easiest possible next 24 hours. We've got somebody in the chat who says they've just joined. Babe, I want to reassure you that there is no hurry or no worry. All of these are on the Class Central YouTube channel. And I promise that let's get you, there's a Discord channel and there's a forum. And if you come over there, we'll sort you out. Okay. Oh, there we are. Head over to the forum. They'll give you access to the Discord as well. Don't worry. There's no deadlines. I said I'm going to finish it after an hour and I've spent 10 minutes being like, everything's fine. Very aggressively. I will lovingly let you go. Bye, team.